Hmm. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today on this Wednesday, March 24th, 2021? It's Bryan Barron. I'm the Director of Skincare Research at Paula's Choice Skincare, a brand that more and more of you are discovering every day. And we love that because we're not just making great skincare for ourselves, we are making it for the world. And the world is finding out. And that is wonderful because that means there are that many people walking around hopefully loving their skin um, and wanting to learn more about it because we have a ton of information on our site as well as on our various social platforms about how to take the best possible care of your skin. And in that vein, today's show topic is going to be our cleansing products with a special emphasis on our brand new Omega Plus Complex Cleansing Balm. Channeling Oprah there from her talk show days. She would always just do that little trill at the end. I thought that was cool. Anyway, not Oprah, obviously. Um, the Omega Plus Complex Cleansing Balm launched this week. It is our very first cleansing balm. So what I'm going to do is two things. I wanted to share some feedback that I amassed from some of our staffers who were actively involved in the creation of this product. Normally, we definitely get key people involved when we have a prototype and it's being tested. And we, in addition to our external panel testing that we do with people who do not work for Paula's Choice, and therefore they can tell us whatever the heck they want about the product, and they do, which is all great feedback. We also occasionally will test certain formulas with people in the office, particularly when it's a brand new concept or type of product for us. And in the case of the cleansing balm, we had several cleansing balm devotees, shall we say, on staff. And so they were instrumental in helping us refine this formula because it went through several permutations, more than what we would normally do for a cleanser, not necessarily because cleansers are so difficult to formulate. For the most part, they're not, particularly when they're water soluble. What we really wanted to make sure that we just hit it out of the park with this Omega Cleansing Balm is that it delivered on everything that our cleansing balm devotees love about the format and surpassed in some of the areas where they felt the other cleansing balms on the market were coming up a bit short in one way or another, whether it was the addition of fragrance, whether it was inefficient or inadequate rinsability, where they'd kind of feel a bit filmy afterwards. Ability to remove certain types of makeup was a criteria, as well as the fact that quite a few cleansing balms are packaged in a jar. And not only does that present a sanitation hygiene issue from dipping your fingers into the product, but if you're using your cleansing balm sink side, for example, and you are scooping it out of a jar, applying, presumably with wet fingers, so you're getting water into the product that way, and then you're putting it on damp skin, massaging it around and splashing it off, or using a washcloth, chances are some of that splashback water is also getting into the wide open jar. So we opted to eliminate all of that by putting our cleansing balm in a tube. I'll show it to you. It's rich and thick. Kind of a translucent. You really don't need a lot of it. What I love about this, you can see how it spreads out and it kind of gets clear. When you add some water to this, which I'm not going to do for this demo, I'm just spreading it around. It will turn milky. The water activates the emulsification system in this balm, which really is what allow the product to be rinsed easily and also to move around the skin as efficiently as possible. But this particular, I'm going to read you some feedback from some of our staffers that just raved about it. I can appreciate the cleansing balm format is not my personal preference for a facial cleanser. Nor do I routinely do a double cleanse. I know a lot of you do. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of double cleansing, it typically involves using a balm type cleanser or a cleansing oil or even a micellar water, which is a liquid, as your first cleanser. That kind of like gets things going by helping to really dissolve, break down, remove that makeup and sunscreen. And then you come in with your regular water-soluble facial cleanser, be it a gel, a foam, a cream, whatever your texture preference is, and then also consider your skin type. But then you come in with that for your second cleanse, which is typically done with water. Our cleansing balm can be used with or without water. I think the general consensus on our team is that it is best used over damp skin, but you can certainly try it on your skin in its dry state and then rinse with water. It's absolutely designed and formulated to be rinsed off, not tissued off. You can use a washcloth if you would like, but let me grab some, let me pull up that screen. Oh, I also have a couple of notes from our social team, and somebody may have been asking this already. The cleanser will be coming to Sephora.com on April 27th. So it's going to be a little while before it hits Sephora's website. You can order it right now. Well, you know, when you're done watching me talk about it on paulaschoice.com. I don't know 100% if Amazon has it yet. They might. Nordstrom should have it. If not, they'll be getting it fairly soon. And it is coming soon to the EU, UK, and Australia markets, but at this point we don't have exact dates. Generally, new products launch within 3 to 4 weeks if those markets decide to offer the product. Sometimes they don't, but generally if they do decide to offer the product in their selection, it's a 3 to 4 week lag behind the United States launch. Let's see, what else does she want me to remind you of? I'm going to talk about that when I go over the ingredients. Excellent. Okay, now I'm going to I wanted to share some of the feedback with you from our cleansing balm gurus. Now, Desiree Stordahl, whom some of you may know from our Instagram lives and other various videos, she's a key part of our education and content team. She says she's been loving using it at night as the first step of a double cleanse. It's been really helpful in getting her makeup off, especially eye makeup and matte foundation. She loves the richness of the texture and how the emollient glide reduces any tugging at skin. That was another attribute we baked into this formula because research is very clear that any extra pulling or tugging that you do at skin can hasten skin's eventual sagging. Because what happens is that you're stressing those elastin fibers in the skin. And they are designed to bounce back, but with ongoing pulling and tugging and stretching, they will eventually start to wear down and they will start to lose their ability to bounce back. That is already happening to some degree just as a matter of getting older, and then environmental damage, mostly from the sun, hastens that even further. So in other words, avoiding pulling and tugging at your skin unnecessarily is going to help you look younger longer. It's just one more thing you can do to keep your skin looking more youthful. My coworker Vanessa says she's tried almost every cleansing balm on the market, from very high-end to drugstore. This is the first one where she doesn't feel like she's sacrificing something. No fragrance, which is a brand pillar for Paula's Choice. For all of our products, no essential oils. We never use those. And she loves the lush, cushiony texture and the fact that it is one of the only cleansing balms, as I mentioned a moment ago, that doesn't come in a jar. Okay, let's see. It does have, you know, I appreciate the softer texture this balm has, and I hope that you will too. Some of the balms that I've experimented with over the years, they certainly work as claimed, to remove even the most stubborn makeup and those tenacious mineral-based type sunscreens, but they come out rather like thick. You almost feel like you're scooping it out, and they seem, for lack of a better description, to be kind of waxy. This is not that type of a texture. It almost like melts onto skin when it contacts it, and then just spreads out. It just has this lovely, lovely slip to it, but it's not so slippery that your hands are kind of, moving off your face all the time. Let's see. Okay. Those were, I think I've pretty much already reiterated some of the other comments that people have made. But yeah, our Robin on our product development team, I know she was a huge fan of that as well. And I could definitely give shout out after shout out to Robin, because she is a huge part of keeping all of our projects moving along, on track, organized. Robin, along with several other people on the product development team, it really does take a village to bring these fantastic products to market. So what I thought would be kind of interesting to do for the Omega Plus Cleansing Balm is, because it has a shorter ingredient list, I wanted to discuss the ingredients in a bit more depth with you to help give you a better understanding of why we chose them and how they contribute to the formula's efficacy or effectiveness, if you prefer. So one of the things that you may notice as you peruse the ingredient list is that this formula doesn't have any preservatives, at least not the conventional type like your phenoxyethanol. Caprylyl glycol would be another one. Some brands still use parabens. Paula's Choice, I don't think we have any. We made the decision to get away from parabens a few years ago and have not been using them, ever since then. Little side story, that's kind of sad. It's kind of what happens though when a group of ingredients gets demonized often enough that it's easier to avoid using them than to constantly have to explain to people why you opted to use them and tell them again and again that no, they're safe, no, they're not harming you, no, they're not doing this. It's sort of like you hear that other side of the story, so to speak, again and again, and you're more apt to believe that. So, but if you are curious about parabens, we discuss them in detail in an article on our site, as well as in our cosmetic ingredient dictionary, which served partially as a jumping off point for this discussion right now about what is in the Omega Plus Cleansing Balm. So because it is a waterless formula, no preservatives are needed, not to mention this type of packaging, there is minimal contact you are having with the product itself, save for what you decide to dispense. By the way, I don't know if anyone's asked this yet, but if you're curious as to how much of this cleansing balm you need to use per application, it can vary. And it is a concentrated formula. I would suggest starting with a smaller, maybe like the size of 2 peas as a jumping off point, and then emulsify that in the palm of your hands. It's easier to kind of emulsify it in your hands and then apply to damp skin or dry skin if you prefer, rather than putting a blob in your hand and then kind of doing this. Again, I'm not one of those people though that have used umpteen cleansing balms and just have taken a deep dive into this category from a personal use perspective. So the beauty of a product like this though, especially one that is water rinsable, is that you can use it pretty much however you prefer. And I would definitely suggest some experimenting, but I did want to give you that visual in terms of how much to use, because this squeezes out easily enough. We didn't want to make it too difficult to squeeze out, and it's not, even though it looks thick, it has a nice glide to it. I don't want you using more than you need to, because I want you to, hang on to this for a while and understand that it really is concentrated. So leading things off is the ingredient ethyl hexyl palmitate, and that is primarily an emollient solvent. It's considered a moderately thick cosmetic ester, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute, and it has good spreading properties. So we're really starting things out easy peasy right out of the gate in terms of how this is going to feel and spread on your skin. Ethyl hexyl palmitate is considered a universal emollient. It has really nice skin conditioning properties, and it is a good solubilizer for other ingredients such as the omega oils that are also included, and I'll discuss that in a second. But what's a cosmetic ester? From a chemistry standpoint, esters are compounds made from combining acids and alcohols. And both of those groups of chemicals are large. There are good acids and bad acids. There are good alcohols, like your fatty alcohols, and bad alcohols, such as your ethanol and your isopropyl alcohol. So just because I'm talking alcohol, it does not mean it's a bad or irritating or drying type of alcohol. Esters can be formed from almost any acids and any acid and any alcohol. So as you can imagine, the number of naturally occurring and synthetically prepared esters available to a cosmetic chemist is vast. So simply put, esters are a very large group of ingredients. You will find them throughout the skincare industry. We would not have skincare as we know it and as we love it without esters. Caprylic capric triglyceride is in position number 2. This is a skin replenishing ingredient. We describe it as such because the caprylic and the capric are two of the medium chain triglycerides that are typically derived in this ingredient from coconut oil. And medium chain triglycerides are excellent at helping to repair and rebuild skin's barrier. So what we did with putting caprylic capric triglyceride in the number 2 spot here is not only give you that barrier replenishment, but also the barrier preservation during cleansing, because this particular triglyceride, and the triglyceride portion is from glycerin, also has mild cleansing properties because it's a slight solvent. So it works in that regard too. Not only helps to soften and condition the skin, it also assists with the ethyl hexyl palmitate in that process of breaking up makeup and more stubborn sunscreen formulas on the skin. Number 3 is an ingredient called PEG-20 glycerol triisostearate. What a mouthful. That is an ester, here we go again with the esters, of the fatty acid, isostearic acid, combined with a synthetic ingredient known as polyethylene glycol, as well as natural glycerin. Now this ingredient can be animal-derived or synthetic, and Paula's Choice uses the synthetic form of PEG-20 glycerol triisostearate. This ingredient has a really high molecular weight, and that keeps it from penetrating past skin's surface, which is completely fine in a cleanser. A cleanser doesn't need to go much past the surface to do its job. This ingredient has both emollient and skin softening properties, as well as being an emulsifier and a mild cleansing agent. We like it because in this formula, because of its ability to help oily ingredients rinse from skin without leaving a greasy residue. So when you try this and you're thinking to yourself after rinsing, I can't believe how velvety soft my skin feels and how supple it feels, but it doesn't feel greasy. How did they do that? This ingredient is one of the ways that we did that. Diisoctyl succinate is up next, and that is an emollient. It may be synthetic or plant-derived, and Paula's Choice uses the plant-derived form. Let me scroll up here a little bit. It's a transparent liquid emollient that lends a cushiony texture to creams and balms, and also imparts that really nice silky finish upon rinsing. The plant version that we're using is made from both corn and castor oils, and depending on what your needs are in a formula, this diisoctyl succinate is a good substitute for your siloxane type silicones like the cyclopenta and the cyclohexasiloxane. Next up is an ingredient that stirred up a bit of controversy on social, and we were glad that you guys let us know because we were able to dispel some confusion. But it's called olive oil PEG-7 esters. The confusion came because it seems that some people reading the ingredient list thought that this product contained pure olive oil, and they were worried about whether or not this olive oil content could potentially clog pores or cause breakouts. I'll tell you why even pure olive oil isn't known to do that in a moment, but specific to olive oil PEG-7 esters, this is an ingredient that is made from a process known as transesterification. Are we sensing the ester theme here? So in transesterification for this ingredient, pure olive oil is combined with PEG-7, which stands for polyethylene glycol 7, which is a synthetic humectant and solvent. With the PEG ingredients, whenever you see PEG followed by a number, that number refers to the size of the ingredient, and the lower numbered PEGs have a lighter, more fluid, lubricious feel. The higher number PEGs, like your PEG 200s, PEG 300, PEG 400, those are much, much thicker and buttery feeling. If you have very dry skin and you're looking at a moisturizer ingredient list and you see a PEG 200 or greater, like PEG 200 glycerol palmitate, just as one example, that's a pretty heavy-duty, thick emollient that can be beneficial for very dry skin because it really functions as an occlusive to help prevent water loss from skin. Petrolatum, petroleum jelly Vaseline, has similar properties, but your PEGs are going to feel much less greasy and occlusive on skin than doing a layer of Vaseline would. I wanted to mention, just in case, just go a little bit more detail about this. Transesterification is an eco-friendly chemical conversion where fatty acids like the triglycerides are reacted with alcohol and other esters to form a new compound, and this new compound is water soluble, i.e. you can rinse it from your skin with, despite the fact that it is made from an oil. The PEG-7 olive oil esters are considered a mild secondary cleansing agent. By secondary, I mean that this cleansing agent typically is added to assist another cleansing agent. So rather than rely on using maybe one or two stronger or more harsh cleansing agents like some of the sulfates, we're using a series of milder cleansing agents that work together via their different molecular structures to gently cleanse the skin as well as rinse. So in terms of olive oil, pure olive oil clogging pores, it certainly can feel greasy. And like most pure plant oils, you're not going to be able to rinse an oil from skin using just water. You almost always need another type of a stronger solvent, because water itself has some solvent properties. Or you need another oil, or you need to use some sort of surfactant, or you need to use friction, such as rubbing the oil off with a damp washcloth or other type of cleansing brush. As you can imagine, that method, depending on how greasy the oil feels, could end up being irritating to skin. But one of the reasons that despite its greasy texture, that olive oil really isn't known to clog pores is it has a large molecular size. It's well above 500 Daltons. Anything below 500 Daltons in terms of molecular weight can get past skin surface, can penetrate further into the pore. So knowing that olive oil is such a large molecular structure, it's very difficult to get it to set up shop at the base of the pore where clogs are going to form. Now, does that mean that you may not be sensitive to olive oil, or find that in your particular case, whenever you use something with olive oil, it clogs your pores? Of course not. I mean, everyone's skin is different. You may have a different response, but to allay any concerns with this particular cleansing balm, the form of olive oil mixed with the PEG-7, it is no longer pure olive oil, and it is actually designed through this transesterification process to be water rinsable. So there you go. All right, just a few more to talk about. Trihydroxystearin is a texture enhancer. It's a mixture of glycerin and hydroxystearic acid. Hydroxystearic acid all by itself is an emollient cleansing agent. When it is trihydroxystearin, when it's combined with that glycerin through a chemical conversion, it does retain some cleansing ability, but it's primarily used as a thickening agent to give texture and body to the cleansing balm, and we are using a plant-derived version. The other option would be synthetic. Same thing we're using synthetic glyceryl stearate. Classic emulsifier, which is an ingredient in a skincare product that keeps unlike substances such as water and oil blended together. They would otherwise, without an emulsifier or some sort of an emulsification system, because there's various ways cosmetic chemists can emulsify unlike ingredients. You would see separation. You see the water phase separating from the oil phase of the product. So glyceryl stearate combines glycerin and stearic acid. It can have some surfactant or cleansing properties, but its versatility in formulas allows it to be used with almost any other ingredient and really in any type of emulsion. So that is one of the reasons why you see glyceryl stearate used in so many rinse off and leave on products. It's like the I just lost what I was going to say. Triple threat, so to speak, but even more than just doing three things. So rounding things out, let's talk about the omega oils that are in this cleanser. Leading it off is meadow foam seed oil, Lemnanthus alba. All of these omega oils are non-fragrant. They are all skin conditioning. They all have soothing properties. They all have barrier repairing and replenishing properties. They're wonderful. We're using a slightly different mix of omegas in the cleansing balm than what you will find in our Omega Complex Serum, Omega Complex Moisturizer, which is a personal favorite of mine, and our Omega Complex Eye Cream. The meadow foam seed oil is actually an edible plant oil that was originally developed as an agricultural crop in the 1950s, and it contains 60% of eicosanoic acid, which is an omega-9 fatty acid. On skin, meadow foam functions as an emollient and softening agent. It is exceedingly stable because it's primarily composed of long-chain fatty acids, which are the longer chain fatty acids are the type that are the least likely to go rancid when exposed to air. Among plant oils, meadow foam actually has the highest concentration of these highly stable fatty acids, 95%. So it's a really nice addition to any product where you may be concerned that the oils will take on an off odor. And for a line like Paula's Choice, a lot of other brands would use stronger fragrances to mask the potential that any natural oil has to go rancid. The fact that oils go rancid is just how oils act when they are exposed to air and just sit around long enough. So I'm not dinging the brands for doing that. I mean, they're doing what they feel is necessary. We have a strong commitment to not use added fragrance, perfumes, specifically just to make a product smell nice. So because we're a fragrance-free brand, we have to be really careful to make sure that we're only using the oils that are, let me backtrack a bit. We have to be very careful that the oil choices that we use for our products are nicely stabilized within the formula itself, as well as by the packaging that we choose, because we want them to be as fresh and potent for as long as possible. So meadow foam seed oil helps quite a good deal with that. We also have jojoba oil that was chosen, surprisingly, it's not often touted as such, but jojoba oil does have a nice mix of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, both of which can benefit skin, including linoleic acid. But we like jojoba seed oil because its chemical composition is very close to skin zone sebum. That is a blessing for those with dry skin, whose skin, because the dryness is another way to say that you have dry skin is that you have sebum poor skin. Your skin is lacking enough of its own natural oil, so you need to supply what the oil would do by using heavier emollients, oils, richer, thicker moisturizers, that type of thing. But because jojoba oil's chemical composition is fairly close to our skin's own oil, it can make it a bit trickier if you have acne or clog-prone skin. Now, in this particular product, I wouldn't necessarily tell somebody with acne or clog-prone skin to completely stay away from it. If you want to experiment with a cleansing balm, even though this does contain jojoba oil, I think it is fine for you to do so for two reasons. One, the amount of jojoba oil isn't prodigious. It's a big difference between The amount that's used in here that smooths and conditions and softens the skin delivers those omega benefits versus putting 100% pure straight up jojoba oil on your face and not rinsing it off. Point number 2 is that because this product is formulated to be water soluble, you're not leaving an oily residue on the skin that could stick around and potentially trigger clogged pores and breakouts. The other thing I like about jojoba oil personally is that it does feel lighter and less greasy than many other oils, particularly the highly saturated oils like your coconut oil. Rapeseed oil, which is saddled with a terrible name, it's more commonly known as canola oil, but the regulatory required INCI, International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients, name is rapeseed oil. But let's just say canola oil because that's what it's more known for. It's another non-fragrant antioxidant skin softening oil that is a good source of omega-6 fatty acids. It's been put through the hydrogenation process, which essentially takes a fluid oil and turns it into more of a semi-solid. So there isn't as much of that in here, but it is, along with adding the omega-6 and the skin softening, it is also helping to contribute to the product's texture. Really versatile ingredient. It's also a good source of antioxidants, including vitamin E and cinnamonic acid. So the other reason that we liked using the canola oil in this cleansing balm is that its vitamin E content, because the vitamin E is such a great antioxidant, and that is the last ingredient in this cleansing balm, tocopherol acetate, the vitamin E derivative. But the canola oil's pure vitamin E, along with the cinnamonic acid, helps to stabilize all of the other oils and the natural components of the other ingredients in this cleansing balm. So that was kind of a deep dive into this cleansing balm. I'll take a look at your questions, see what else you have. I'm hoping that you like that explanation. I geek out about stuff like this, and I certainly don't mind sharing it. But at the same time, I hope that I'm explaining it to you in a way that is understandable and you know you're kind of getting it. But I thought that would be kind of a fun little glimpse into why we chose the ingredients we did for this cleansing balm. And then the fun part is the magic behind the scenes of what our because this was a product, actually I should have said this at the top of the show. This is a product that we developed entirely in-house. And except for the scale up, because we don't have, Paula's Choice does not own its own manufacturing plant. We work with different contract manufacturers. So we develop and test a formula on a smaller scale in our in-house lab. And then when we have everything worked out, our chemists work on the scale up process. We determine which contract manufacturer we want to give the formula to, and then they order the raw materials that we tell them to order, and then make the product for us on a larger, make and fill the product for us on a larger scale. Okay, some people are saying hello. Hi. Vivian says, hey Brian, how's it going? I hope Dash has been having an okay time with remote learning. I don't have any questions at the moment, but it's great to see you. Thank you, Vivian. I'm really pleased to tell you that my son, who this is his kindergarten school year, he has been going to in-person. We were lucky enough to get him into a local Catholic school that is doing in-person learning, and there's the usual protocols in place. They had a brief virtual learning period between the Thanksgiving and year-end holidays. We knew that going into it, but for the most part, it has been 100% in person, 5 days a week, and we're so fortunate. And it's the school has been doing a marvelous job amidst a very tough year, and my heart goes out to all of the kids of school age that have had just a drastically compromised education for so long. And I also know, though, just on the upside, that there are some parents and some students that have enjoyed the virtual education process. And just like there are people who are used to going into an office of some sort to work face-to-face with other people, who have really taken to the virtual work world. So it'll be interesting to see, in the next few years how this pans out. Because I do think that we're going to see some interesting, and have already seen some interesting, well, I think we're going to see some long-lasting changes from these educational interruptions and compromises. And I hope there'll be changes for the best. Kevin says, hello, what do you think of pomegranate-based skincare? I'm not familiar with that, Kevin. I don't know if that is I'm assuming you're asking about a brand called Pomegranate Base. I can tell you that I think pomegranate is a very good antioxidant for skin. I believe ellagic acid is the primary polyphenolic antioxidant in pomegranate. Phenomenally successful at scavenging different types of free radicals. I've definitely come across some really good studies showing pomegranate's anti-inflammatory properties, how it can help skin better withstand what happens on a molecular level in the face of UV exposure. So I am 100% on board with pomegranate as an ingredient for skin, whether it's an extract, the juice, the pericarp, the skin. Definitely all parts of the plant, including the oil, the seed oil, have value. I only hope if this is a skincare brand that you're asking about that they're not using jar packaging, because that would not be good for pomegranate. Okay. And I know I mentioned about a month out or so in terms of availability of the Omega Cleansing Balm in Europe. Underscore NALD. Hi, Bryan. I read somewhere retinol can be used after moisturizer to decrease irritation without affecting efficacy. Is this true, or will doing this render my retinol ineffective? It's absolutely true. Yeah, if you think about a lot of the retinol products on the market, including several that we offer, are in a moisturizing or hydrating base. It's easier to solubilize retinol in that type of a base. And the theory behind that, by putting your moisturizer on first and then putting your retinol product over it, is that it slows the penetration of retinol into the skin. And it does do that. How well it does it, I mean, the retinol will eventually get to where it's going to go, and if your skin is going to react to retinol, chances are it will react one way or the other, whether you do that moisturizer step ahead of time or whether you don't. I think where you may see a difference is the severity of the reaction. Remains to be seen, though, and it does take some experimentation. It's certainly, in my history with skincare, I found far more people's skin tolerates retinol than not. It just takes experimentation to find the format and the concentration that works best for you, and then you also have to take into account what else you're using in your routine that would be considered bioactive, and then experimenting to see, well, just separating the application of these, not because you have to, because they cross-react or some awful thing, but that just happens to be how your skin responds best. There are other things to do that there are other steps formulators can take, this is what I'm trying to say, to do more of a controlled release of retinol into the skin. And that the type of retinol we use in our two 1% products, the clinical 1% retinol treatment and the 1% retinol booster, that is a controlled release retinol delivery system. So in that situation, I wouldn't say you necessarily need to put a barrier, so to speak, via moisturizer between your skin and the retinol. But what I would advise, particularly if you're new to using that strength of retinol, is to start slowly. And maybe for your first 2-3 weeks, you're putting that on once per day. At night is generally best, not because it's inactivated by sunlight during the day. I mean, it is if you don't put sunscreen on, but you should be wearing sunscreen anyway, right? I always kind of default to retinol at night because I'm one of those people that likes fewer products during the day, and I'll layer to my heart's content at night without worry. So there you go. And take a look at the usage instructions on our shop pages for those two retinol products, because they're a bit more detailed, talking about how to use them like every third day, waiting to see how your skin responds, and then going from there. And then you can work up to once daily usage. Okay, just want to double check something on my chat. Oh, there you go. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, back to your questions. When I get chats during my chat, I always want to make sure that it's not like someone at work saying, I can't hear you, or I can't see you, or make sure you mention this. Because I can't keep everything in my head. I mean, there's a lot to say. Jean, it says, hi, Bryan, I really like the new cleansing balm. I was wondering, is this coming to Europe? Yes, hopefully, eventually. There's no regulatory reason why Europe can't sell this cleanser. So, and I hope I'm not going on a limb here, but I don't see why they wouldn't offer this cleanser as part of their portfolio. But, don't say, well, Bryan said you'd be selling it, because I'm not 100% aware if they are or not. So if you get mad at somebody, they'll get mad at me. And then Jean goes on to ask, also, is the 25% AHA plus 2% BHA coming to Europe? I don't think that one is. I'd have to double check, but I'm fairly certain that the rinse off peel will not be available in the European market. Gabby says, this balm emulsifies like milky texture when you use water. Yes. Non-oily residue? Yes. Your skin, it's not that your skin, it certainly isn't going to feel squeaky clean. That's never a good thing. That's over cleansing. That's a stripping cleanser sensation. What you will feel upon rinsing is a really nice velvety softness. It should not feel the least bit greasy or oily. You won't see shine on your skin. The only way I think somebody would perceive this balm as leaving a residue is if they're using too much per application. So if you find that by chance that's how it's making your skin feel, reduce how much you're using, and see if just by reducing that amount, that may be your sweet spot, and you can say, okay, now I know how much I need to use to get everything off and to leave my skin feeling amazing. Decca says, hi, Bryan. Sounds great. That's exactly what I was hoping would launch. Hope it will be available in Europe soon. Jean Michael says, isn't ethyl hexyl palmitate comedogenic? I mean, it's made from various fatty acids, including palmitic acid. I'm leery about labeling any specific ingredient comedogenic, because the tests that have looked at that over the years, they're typically done on animals, usually rabbit skin, and they will take the 100% pure concentration of that ingredient and apply it to skin and wait to see what happens. We're not using 100% of any of those ingredients in this product. And the entire formula is designed to be water soluble and rinsed from the skin. So I wouldn't worry about ethyl hexyl palmitate being comedogenic. But if you are somebody that has very oily skin, very clog prone, breakout prone skin, preference-wise, you will likely prefer the feel of a foaming or a gel cleanser. So our clear normalizing cleanser, the Earth Sourced Perfectly Natural Cleansing Gel, the Defense Hydrating Gel to Cream Cleanser. Although some people with oily skin may find that as that lathers, it still might feel too creamy for their personal preference. In which case, I would steer them toward the skin balancing or oil reducing cleanser. Or even the Hydrolite if you want a lighter weight gel cleanser, the Hydrolite one-step cleanser. Gabby is asking, can we expect any SPF spray in the future to reapply SPF? So hard to find one fragrance-free and good ingredients. We don't have a spray-on SPF in the works. There was some worry a while back. I haven't looked into it in a while, so it could still be ongoing. There was worry that in the United States, the FDA was going to regulate spray-on sunscreens differently than sunscreen creams and lotions and gels because of the fact that it is much more difficult for consumers to ascertain how much they've applied, particularly if you're reapplying outdoors. For example, at the beach, it's a windy day, you're going to put your spray sunscreen on, and yeah, you see some of the mist is hitting your skin, but how much of it is just going off into the wind and not helping your skin one bit. That is why for spray sunscreens, I tend to prefer the ones that are non-aerosolized. When my son was smaller and you couldn't tell him to stand still and hold still and don't move your head because he just didn't know what those commands meant, I would use a spray-on lotion sunscreen from, what was it, Baby Ganix, I believe it was an in-part mineral. I wanted to see if this particular brand of sunscreen is still okay. There is a brand called Kinesis, Kinesys. They sell several spray-on sunscreens, including some that contain zinc oxide, and they're great. And they do, last I checked, they also offer fragrance-free options. You can find them on their brand website, kinesis.com, as well as Amazon. I don't see them in stores very often. At least you're more likely to see Kinesis sunscreens at a sporting goods store or a recreational goods type store than you would to see them at your Targets, your Walmart, your Kohl's, or Nordstrom or Sephora. So check online. I love that they're the majority of their sunscreens. I'm saying majority because I don't know if by now they may have introduced an aerosol propelled version or two, but they still offer several of the regular non-aerosol sprays. I like those better for those who like the concept of a spray because they come out more concentrated. So you can like spritz, 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 and you see your skin has gotten kind of wet from the sunscreen, and then you just spread that wet spray evenly over the skin as you would a cream or a lotion. For the burn-prone areas, like for example tops of shoulders, if you're wearing a regular bathing suit top, or you're just not wearing a shirt at all, you can just spritz, 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 and just kind of let it dry naturally without really having to rub it in. But even then, I still, for those long days outdoors, I think that they're okay for touching up if you're using the non-aerosol kind. But I would also urge you to slather on a lotion or cream type sunscreen at home before heading out. There we go. Andrea, so if you don't use double cleansing, how do you remove your water resistant sunscreen? I find that I use the Moisture Boost one-step face cleanser, followed by the Resist Advanced Replenishing Toner. And I find that between those two, I don't have any traces of it left. And I can tell because the sunscreen I use is tinted. So any traces of it are going to show up as that coloration on a cotton pad. And then, of course, I can also tell based on how my skin feels. So I find that it works really well. I'm not seeing any... I've been doing this for years. Haven't seen any uptick in clogged pores or anything like that. Double cleansing isn't a must for removing those types of products. It's something that you can consider. And the more tenacious type products that you use on a daily basis, I do think double cleansing is a good idea. But you may also find that a cleansing balm or a gel or a cream works fine on its own. It really depends on the cleansing formula and then what you're trying to remove. And as with so much in skincare, it's experimentation. Beautiful Waterfall asks, is the new balm okay for acne-prone skin? It has a couple of pore-blocking ingredients. I think we've covered that. If you routinely break out just generally speaking, cleansing balms as a group probably aren't your jam. They just aren't. I mean, as careful as I know we were with this formula and making sure that everything emulsified and was water soluble, I understand the hesitation when you're prone to breakout and you see certain ingredients on an ingredient list and you're thinking, I understand that worry about, will it break me out? And if that is something that you're feeling, I would direct you towards one of our other gel or foaming type cleansers. Or if you're looking for more of a specific makeup remover type product, we do have our Gentle Touch makeup remover, which is a liquid dual phase makeup remover, the kind that you have to shake up before you use. Lancome's Bifacil, Clinique Take the Day Off, original makeup remover. Those are other examples of that type of makeup remover, and those are wonderful as well for removing pretty much any type of makeup, water resistant, waterproof, transfer resistant, 18-hour wear, you name it, they can cut through it. All right, Marlo, just listen to Paula and you talk to Dr. Perry on your old podcast. Oh my gosh, that was years ago. Fantastic and surprisingly hilarious show that is greatly missed. I would love to do that show again, Marlo. I miss that too. I miss having that in-person time with Paula. That radio show started out as us doing it in our old office, and we would all be on phones in different parts of the building calling into the same line. And then, that was kind of fun as far as like, let's just see if this concept takes off and if people are actually going to listen. And they did. But then we quickly decided that not being able to see the other person, we ended up just talking over each other a lot. Or there'd be, those odd pauses where you're kind of like, both parties are waiting for the other person to speak, but somebody has to start. And then what typically happens is you'd both start talking at the same time and then have to say, oh, I'm sorry, you go ahead. I think a good chunk of the world has experienced that as we've acclimated to having most of our formerly in-person, face-to-face meetings via Zoom and other video conferencing programs. So we've talked over the years about bringing that back with me living in a completely different state than where Paula's Choice US is based and where Paula is still based, and Paula being semi-retired. I don't know. But if we could bring something like that back, I think it would be cool because those were a lot of fun. And we eventually moved. We got very fancy, and we moved to a professional recording studio. And Paula and I would literally be in the same sound booth together, sitting across the table. Headsets, and we had a sound guy that would control for the levels, because what would often happen is our audio would be at one level, and then we would have people like Dr. Perry call in as our special guest, and depending on where or how they were calling in, cell phone versus landline, and so the volume could be all over the place. And so it was great having that professional sound person there in the moment to equalize everything. But those were fun times. We would go into the studio early in the morning and we would record usually 6 or 7 shows over the course of the day. And I was always impressed with what a trooper Paula was. I mean, she was, and then we would typically go out afterwards and have a martini. So that was a lot of fun. Okay, wrapping up here, a few more minutes left. Andrea, I'm excited for you to try it. Seth says, hey, Bryan, been a big fan for over a decade now. Love you're all working on any new fermented or probiotic products. Love the probiotic nutrient moisturizer, but wondering if any toner essence is coming. We don't have anything immediately coming up. Seth, it's one of those areas there where in terms of the research, we're keeping an eye out. In fact, I just got a new issue of Dermatology Times in the mail today, and there's a story starting on the cover about further evidence that topical use of probiotics is helping skin. We are using our product. That moisturizer does not contain living probiotics. It contains what's known as probiotic lysates, which are essentially probiotic lysates are made from a once alive strain of probiotic that is then fermented and killed. But that process allows the probiotic, even though it's dead, to retain much of its skin beneficial ability, particularly along the lines of calming and soothing and helping skin basically get to a healthier state. So I think that the concept of biotics, whether they're pre, pro, or post for skin, it definitely has legs to it. And I think fermentation of ingredients is a really interesting, potentially customizable, sustainable way to go for certain groups of ingredients. So all of that, definitely something that we're keeping an eye on. I don't know, though, if we would expand that group, basically create a probiotic family of products, kind of like what we did for the Omega. I think what would be more likely to happen is that we will be looking at certain biotic ingredients and or ferments and weaving those in to existing products, because as the research mounts pertaining to the benefit of these specific ingredients for skin, and they all fall under the umbrella of helping to reduce unwanted inflammation. And anything that you can do in that regard, regardless of the ingredient, as long as it's good for skin, meaning non-irritating, is going to help. No matter your age, no matter your skin concern, at some point or another, left unchecked, inflammation is going to cause problems for your skin. And so anything you can do topically to help reduce or interrupt that is good. Okay. Esha says, hi Bryan, where should I put my azelaic acid booster in my routine? Is it AM or PM routine? It can be either one. Esha, I use the azelaic. I've been using that more lately because I've been dealing with a few random breakouts and some post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation on my lip. That's fun. And I'm finding that the azelaic acid booster really, really helps with that. So I've actually been using it twice daily, morning and night. Morning I put it on, I'll cleanse, I'll tone. Some mornings I'll use an exfoliant, but I typically do the exfoliant step at night. I'm a once a day exfoliant guy, generally speaking. Then I'll do the Power Berry Serum, which I love, and then I'll put, or the peptide booster, bounce back and forth between those. And then the azelaic acid booster followed by my SPF. At night, the azelaic acid booster would be after my exfoliant. Then I do the azelaic acid booster. Then I might put a serum on over it if I want a serum again. Or I'll do the, more likely, I'll do the clinical bakuchiol retinol treatment. And then I finish with the Omega moisturizer on the areas where my skin feels drier. And then the eye cream, our original Resist anti-aging eye cream, goes around my eyes. So that's the current lineup for me on most nights lately. And thank you guys so much for joining this chat. It's always so much fun to talk to you. I love seeing what's on your mind, what you're concerned about, what you're loving. So as always, if you are watching this beyond the live broadcast, feel free to leave your question in the comments section. I do come back a few days later and check for those and try to answer those as they come up. So let me know, and I will see you next month.